Hello, Abigail here with the Tarotscopes for Aries season, Cancer Sun, Moon, and Rising. My Cancers, this season is extra special, and maybe I've said this before, but this is actually extra special. We get the beautiful spring equinox, which is the day that Aries season begins, in the middle of eclipse season. So we're kind of dropped right into this eclipse portal. There's so much change happening, but it's not necessarily change that we have initiated or activated, at least consciously. And it's a lot. And we're also still in the Venus retrograde and the Mercury retrograde, and we're still in the post shadow period with Mars in detriment in Cancer. So the season does feel different. It doesn't quite feel like that bursting forth of spring. Spring will spring, as it always does, but it does feel as though we're not quite ready to make that leap. We're going to be wrapping up the energies from Pisces season. It is the last zodiac sign before we start a new zodiacal year, and Aries season, is the beginning of that. So, yeah, it's a lot. Your cards are a lot, not gonna lie. But let me just kind of give you a little run through and also a little point of hope, my dear Cancers. So, firstly, Jupiter will be entering your sign later this year, so that's great news for you. Also, in this season specifically, we do have a couple of really nice things. So, the retrogrades end in April, which is kind of the time that I see things starting to move forward. I think it's going to get kicked off with Neptune entering Aries at the very end of March, and also that solar eclipse in Aries, that final one that we have on the Aries Libra axis. And then we're going to kind of build as, April 7th hits, Mercury stations direct. And then April 12th is a really beautiful day. We have a full moon in Libra, and the ruler, Venus, stations direct in Pisces. So there's a really beautiful gift and moment in there. So kind of hold on to these dates as the kind of intensity and overwhelm, of this Aries season unfolds and engulfs you. Um, I don't like to fearmonger, but it is rough. We've been really hard hit since the beginning of this year. You know, we had Pluto re-entering Aquarius. We had the Mars retrograde. We've had the Venus retrograde, which the shadow period started at the end of January. So it's multi-layered over that. Mercury retrograde now, and then eclipses. So understand that it's not just you. This has been a really hard season for everyone. And if you're doing well, great. That is what I hope for all of us. But some of us are not doing well. Some of us are feeling really worn out and dragged down. And I think Aries season is going to continue to require large amounts of energy for us. So, what's really important before I dive in is to rest and to not hold ourselves to any standards or any timeline until we get through into Taurus season, until we're on the other side of this. So, let's get started. We have the offering for your archetype card. It does feel as though oftentimes cancers and cancer energy tends to get munched on, for a better word, get chewed up a bit by the people around it, being constantly seen as in service to others, not in the same sense as Virgo, but you are seen as nurturers and carers. And even if you're not a nurturer or a carer, you will be perceived as one at some point as a Cancer heavy person. It just happens. And even if you're not Cancer heavy, but you are like a Libra rising, which you get Cancer at the top of the chart, oftentimes people will see that and be like, oh, yes, a person who will help me and make me feel better about myself. So the offering does feel difficult because it feels like you are the offering in this season. But I think we can look at this from a different perspective of what you can give within the parameters of what you have and what you need to give. I think the offering of this season is releasing that control, is releasing that need to be perceived in a good way, to offer up, I think, maybe a facade in exchange for honesty and for telling people no and for releasing yourself from obligations that you never wanted in the first place. You don't need to offer up all the good things that you have for other people's consumption or for the universe, but you can offer up the parts that you don't want anymore. The relationships that aren't fulfilling, the like constant drain on your energy from other people, places, and jobs. We don't always have to offer, you know, the best of the best in situations where we need the best of the best for ourselves. Um, and if you want to give something beautiful to the universe, you can give that honesty. You can give that no. And you can give that, I actually need this and not that. You don't have to constantly be giving of yourself. Also, looking at these cards, you don't have a whole lot to give. Um, I think a lot of you are in burnout or struggling with burnout, um, or at least getting to that point, which is also a really rough place to end up. But offer what you can, offer what you no longer want or need. Offer, you know, offer the things that no longer serve you to the universe. Doesn't need to be an offering of all of the things that you have and need that are the best. The universe will take what you are releasing and will replace it with something much better. I think we're so often taught like that these offerings need to be like the life force that we ourselves need, and that's just not true. That's a story made up by people who like to keep us weak. That you must give the best things to other people. That's just a way of kind of defanging you so they can take what they want later on. Anyways, let's get into this. It's pretty heavy, guys. I'm not gonna lie, but I think it's good information for y'all to have moving into this energy. So we start off with the Ten of Wands. And that's why I said I think y'all are going into burnout, or you're already in burnout. Ten of Wands is the card of burnout. The wands are not bad or good necessarily. Sometimes you can be burnt out by a lot of good things. It's just don't do too much. Don't do too much. If you don't have the capacity, don't do it. If you think you're not going to have the capacity, don't do it. If you don't know if you'll be capable of doing it down the road, don't do it. There's a lot of like reasons to not do things in this moment. And just, I keep facing this with clients and stuff, being like, but if I don't do it, who will? That's fine. No one needs to do it. What is so urgent about this thing that it cannot wait? Obviously, like we have to do other things. But in this moment, I don't think there's anything so urgent that you have to do it now. And if someone is pushing you to do something now, ask what their motivation is. Because the only people I've ever known to like rush people for no reason or to like impose like rush on other people are people who want to get things without other people thinking it through. So don't do stuff. Release the need to constantly do, release the need to give. Maybe lay down some of your wands. Then they can be really pretty wands. They can be really nice wands, and you can always pick them up later. But maybe lay something down this Aries season so that you can frolic in the grass a bit more, so you can go on a picnic with friends. So you're not so overwhelmed and overloaded that you can't do the things that you truly want to do. Um, and the next one's not much better. And also, this deck is all based off of myths and legends, which I really love. So some of them are really recognizable, and some of them are really obscure, and I kind of love that. And then we have the Nine of Swords, which is clearly the Oracle at Delphi, giving not great news to someone. And I'm sure if I dug back in my childhood, I would remember the name of the story. But, you know, it can feel as though every interpretation you're getting right now is a lot. It can feel like all the messages you're getting are kind of hopeless. Um, the world is not doing great. I mean, I think it hasn't been for a while, but we, especially those of us who live in the U.S., have been propagandized out of our minds. So, it is a lot to take in. It's a lot to receive. It's a lot to understand. It's a lot to defang. But it's also important to know that these are swords. Swords have a lot to do with thoughts and the mind. It's not always as it seems. Oftentimes it is perspective. So keep that in mind in these overwhelming times, in these moments of struggle, in these moments of having to move forward, even when we don't feel like we can, even though the fears and the concerns and the just overwhelm of existence and just the prospect of having to continue to exist becomes too much, then don't. Go take a nap, go lay down, cancel things, tell people you're not available, say I don't have the capacity to meet you right now. Um, Let yourself just hole away. Also remember that the card of the year is the Hermit. this is kind of just a long journey in the dark with a little lamp, by yourself, to a certain degree. But as I keep reminding people, just because we're in the dark and it feels alone doesn't mean there aren't people crawling around on the floor in the dark next to us. We can reach out for a helping hand. We can reach out to commiserate, even though we may not be able to see them, even though it might feel like there's a huge distance between us. So your fears are founded. You don't need to discredit your concerns and your anxiety. And as someone who has ADHD and anxiety and autism, and sometimes on top of that, clinical depression, which is the nasty soup. But sometimes the answer is just letting your body be right. It is concerning. It is upsetting. It is overwhelming. And while we will still have to continue on trying to like be falsely positive or force ourselves to believe something that just isn't true, just let yourself be overwhelmed. And obviously, not to the point that you become desperate, but to the point that your body goes, "Thank you for finally listening to me. Thank you for believing what I've been telling you." I don't think that the answer is saying that everything's okay, because it's just not. A lot of our mental health issues and struggles are based on the fact that we do live in a really rough place and it is really hard to survive and cope. And this is the natural, healthy response to the conditions that we live under. And yeah, we have to find ways to cope, we have to find ways to survive, but I don't think it helps to tell our body that they're wrong when they're not, you know? And well, that can lead us into hopelessness. I don't think, especially kind of if you look at the character over here, he's very upset. I don't think that we have to live there. And I really do love, the next card that we have here, which is this Knight of Wands. This wild, and I don't actually know the full story behind this. I think my only complaint about this deck is they don't actually give the name of the story. They just like tell you where it's from. And I'm like, I want the tale. But this Knight of Wands, and I actually did the reading for this week ahead, and the message is the same here. It's not time to plan or strategize or accomplish anything really big, which the universe is accomplishing that already. I want to tell you, it's not that nothing's happening, it's that you don't have the control over any of it. This is the card of just doing, putting one foot in front of the other, just stepping out and doing the things that you have to do in your little day-to-day mundane stuff and doing it haphazardly. I am disabled. I get exhausted when I cook, when I am in a lot of pain, if I can. The kitchen looks like a tornado has been through it because I don't care that I spilled something over the side of something or that I dumped half the bag of rice somewhere. I have to get the job done to survive, period. And I will deal with the mess later. And that's really what this card is about. It's about just doing the thing, just making it through. And I do like this because, they're having a raring good time. They are out here living their best life, riding a goat, tearing it up, probably making a mess. This isn't the season for playing nice. This isn't the season for pretty things. This is a season of getting up, doing what you can, being as silly, goofy as possible, because that is how we're coping. And that is good enough. You don't need to give 100%. And also, if you only have 30% and you give 30%, that's still 100% of what you have. And I also would advise giving 100% at any time, because that's not how energy works. You shouldn't be giving 100%. You shouldn't be giving 110%. That is unreasonable. You need percentages to live your life. So don't let people tell you need to give more. It's just not true. It's a very capitalist ideal to give yourself too much. And with that 10 of Wands, that's how we get here, is by giving more than we have when that's not necessary, especially for labor. Labor is not supposed to take everything you have. Anyways, be the Knight of Wands this season, my Cancers. Be wild. Also, for most of the season, Mars is still in Cancer. It does move out right before we go into Taurus season, literally the day before Mars moves into Leo. So, new energy is coming. We're building into new times. We are crawling our way through the post shadow periods of retrogrades. Be wild, be a little crazy, be silly, goofy, have some fun. You know, Everything is serious. And because everything is serious, we need to find ways to cut up, to goof off, to make a mess, to be unruly and ungovernable. So embody this card this season because the rest are very much kind of like things happening to you or things that you are experiencing. And this is something that you can do. And also, like I said, just do the thing. Like, if you have to do something unpleasant, just do it, even if it's messy, even if it's gross. And also, kind of conversely, if the thing's not important, you've self imposed a deadline, change the deadline. And then we have our Seven of Wands. And I love the representation of this. I cannot for the life of me remember the name of this, but this is an American folk story, which is actually kind of sad. Um, but it is about endurance in this context. It's about endurance in most tarot decks, but this is about endurance and strength. And I think the story is, and I'll tell it's very sad, is that I can't remember his name, but that there was someone who's doing railroad stakes, and they said that basically there was a bet that he couldn't do X number of railroad stakes, and he said he could. And so there was him against a whole troop of men, and he beat them by a mile driving stakes and died from his exertion. So I don't want you to die. I don't want us to overdo it. But there is a sense of endurance in the season. There's a sense of us having to kind of push to the end to make our way through, um, and to need to drive our stakes. But I think the most important part of this lesson is he was incredibly efficient, even though in the end he overdid it. Um, so be efficient, but don't push yourself quite as far as he did. Please, no, because I always find that it to be a really, really sad story, and I can't for the life of me remember the name of this story. I heard it so often as a child. Um, but yeah, this if you want to take anything from this character is the determination and the belief in self. Um, and then last but not least, because I don't once again I'm like, please, we got the Ten of Wands. Do not burn yourself out that far. And then we have the Ten of Swords. It's a lot. It's a lot. A lot of us are emotionally bleeding out. A lot of us are feeling desperate and feeling like we've been pushed into the ocean and had our fingies chopped off, which is what happens in this card. Once again, I don't know this exact story, even though I'm a folklore hoe. Um, but I am going to do some research because I do think that's going to add a nice extra level to this interpretation. But it is going to feel like a lot. It is going to feel very desperate this season. I will say something. I don't always read the card after, but I do think this is really important because we have so many tens this season. Is that yes, everything is a lot and it's overwhelming and you're going to feel like garbage probably a lot of Aries season just by the sheer volume of energy, and you are ruled by the moon, so you're very energetic. um but right underneath that is our Ten of Cups. There is something really beautiful around the corner in Taurus season. I really want you to kind of keep a hold on that because I know this reading has not been, I pulled the cards and I was like, well, I must be honest. um I know everything feels like this, but there are Ten of Cups moments, even in this season, but also within the broader scope of this year. There's a lot of really beautiful gifts. Like I said, also, we've got that beautiful Libra full moon that's coming in, which feels very Ten of Cups with Venus stationing direct at the same time. Will it be a little sticky because of that station? Yes, but it is this kind of hopeful, expansive moment where we get to experience and feel that. It is, however, I will say, conjunct Chiron. So there is an undertone of needing to face some wounds, spaces where Venus has been hurt and harmed. But I think that there's a deep healing in that kind of combination of energy and that releasing of certain kinds of pains. Um, but yeah, I want to leave you with the Ten of Cups. It's going to be a lot. It's going to be, it may not seem a lot on all fronts, but I think if you look back, because I know Cancers tend to put up with a lot of BS, you will see that you have endured much. And I want to remind you that we do have Ten of Cups moments coming. There are Ten of Cups moments hidden amongst the rubble of everything else. This is just a really unique, energetic moment that we have to persevere and engage in order to be ready for the rest of 2025 and 2026. Anyways, my Cancers, I don't want to leave you with a bummer. I do 100% believe that the Ten of Cups are sprinkled throughout and definitely coming in Taurus season. But take care of yourselves. You don't need to endure beyond your own limits. In fact, I would encourage you to say no before you reach your limits, just so you have that extra energy for yourself to really enjoy the spring. It's one of my favorite times of year. All right, my Cancers, I love you all, and I will see you in a different space and time. Blessed Aries season, blessed spring equinox.